Today we're going to be mixing together Manic Panic in the color Purple Haze with Vampire Red. So my swatches are numbered 1 through 12. I do like to just remind everyone that my swatches are not synonymous with hair levels. The numbers just help us keep track of each swatch. Also, these are human hair swatches, but they are not virgin hair except the number 4 black swatch. Otherwise, they've been chemically colored, treated, or bleached at some point in their lifetimes. 1 is green. I just want to see how the dye turns out on top of that. 2 is a cool tone gray. 3 is a natural red. Again, 4 is black. 4 to 11 is a range that goes to platinum blonde. And then 12 is like a toned version of number 11. So for my mix videos, I like to do 2 to 3 different ratios depending on the outcomes. Today we're going to do 2. I like to try and do my darker mix on the top and the lighter on the bottom. So we are going to start with a 4 to 1 ratio. So that will be 1 part of the Vampire Red to 4 parts Purple Haze. Also, everyone's hair is different, which means everyone's hair will take color differently. Plus, different screens and monitors and whatnot can make colors look a little different. So please just use my video as a reference for how this could possibly turn out for you. For the second ratio, we're going to do a 1 to 1. So that means it's going to be equal parts of Vampire Red with Purple Haze. I'm gonna let these sit for about 2 hours, just so they can really absorb the color. I will then rinse them out, and when they're dry, I will meet you back here and we can do some comparisons. So quickly, I just want to remind everyone that my swatches are not virgin hair. Virgin hair tends to be less porous, which means it's not going to absorb color as easily, like semi-permanent as easily. So if your hair is virgin especially, that could impact how this color turns out on you. Now, the interesting thing is that I believe both the Vampire Red and the Purple Haze are pretty pigmented. So if your hair is not blonde, if it's in the brownish family, something like this may actually be okay for you. But if it doesn't work for you, I just want to explain why. I see a difference on every single swatch except the number 4 black swatch, which makes sense. 1 originally was green. That is completely covered by the dye. I will say that the side with more purple looks a little closer to a black. I don't want to quite say it looks black, but it is very, very dark. So it's a little bit hard to see the purple, whereas the bottom that is a little bit more red, you can actually see a little bit better. But overall, I'd say that the green underneath kind of muted the color just a little bit compared to the other swatches. So it doesn't look quite as saturated. 2 was the gray. Oftentimes that one can also look a lot more muted compared to like the blonde, for example. But I can't say that this one actually looks that much different. It actually looks pretty similar to maybe like 10 and 11. It probably is just a little bit more muted because the undertones of a gray, but overall it does look pretty similar again to the lighter swatches. Number 3 was the natural red. Sometimes the natural red can play a role in how the color will turn out, but I again actually don't feel like it looks that much different from maybe like 6, maybe kind of between 6 and 7. For the purple part on 3 and 6, it almost looks like a brown with a slightly purpley undertone. It is a little bit hard to see the purple. I'm sure maybe in different lighting the purple comes through a little bit better, but in this house lighting that we're currently under, it has a kind of natural purple look. I know natural purple doesn't exist, but you know. The red part of 3, 6, and 7 is a little bit easier to see compared to the purple. I would say on the 3 and the 6, it definitely also has a slightly more natural look where it's not as bright, a little bit more muted, closer to a brown, but still has the red undertones. It's just obviously as the hair gets lighter, the color gets a little bit more visible as well. So I would say if your hair is as dark as number 5, this might not be the best for you. I would say maybe just sticking to the purple or the red on their own would probably be a little bit better, only because it turns out very dark when they're mixed together, which means you can't really see the undertones as well on the darker hair mixed, you know. But if you had to choose one, I think again the end with more red is a little bit more visible. It's just very subtle. 7 is interesting because there's definitely a difference on the top where the purple is. The hair was definitely a lot lighter beforehand, I'm pretty sure. But again, the purple on top almost makes it look like a purpley brown. But with that being said, I do see a lot more of the purple coming through on the number 7 than I did for number 6. And then I would say that the red starts to be a little bit more visible on the number 7 than it did on number 6. It looks a little less natural on number 7 than it did for the darker swatches. But then 8 is the swatch where I would say the purple is a lot more visible. It looks a lot less brownish purple. And then that theme continues with the lighter swatches. And interestingly, I think for the bottom half of the 8, 9, 10, and 11, they all look pretty similar. So if you are trying to do this mix and you're going for this kind of burgundy reddish color, I would say you don't have to worry about getting your hair super light. You still want it lighter so that it's more visible, but it doesn't seem like you need it to be super bright to get a similar color. And I mean, that's honestly pretty similar with 9, 10, and 11 with the purple half. The purple's just a little bit more visible on those 3, but again, it still is definitely visible on number 8. And then 12 is the tone swatch. That one often looks kind of between 11 and 2, which I would have to agree. It's just maybe slightly more muted than the 11, but it's honestly so similar that you really can't tell a huge difference, at least not from where I am seeing it currently. If anything, I think I see slightly less pink in the red for number 12, but it's very minimal. So for comparisons today, I thought we would just make it easy and compare the red that we used and the purple that we used so that we can see what they looked like before and how mixing them together really changes the tone. So I figure we will start with Manic Panic in the color Vampire Red. This is comparable to number 12, 11, 10, and 9. So I'm just going to move the swatches down since the more red half is at the bottom. So you can see that the purple haze added to the Vampire Red definitely darkens the color. It makes it kind of a little more cool in undertone, almost like a berry undertone. I was worried at first that I wasn't doing good ratios because it looked really, really red when I first applied it, but I think the purple really set in as the color was sitting on the hair, and you can really see that it does make a difference. All right, so now I'd like to look at Manic Panic in the color Purple Haze. This is comparable to number 12, 11, 10, and 9. So Purple Haze is actually pretty warm in undertone for a purple. I definitely have more warm undertone purples, but generally speaking, it's a warm purple. So adding the red makes it obviously even more warm in undertone. I don't know if I have the correct word to describe the purple that it turns out to be, so if anyone wants to take a stab at it, feel free in the comments. But essentially you can use this mix either to warm up the purple haze for like a more berry undertone purple, or you can use it to cool down the vampire red to give a nice berry undertoned red. Now I'd like to look at the before and after clips. Those, as well as everything past this point in the video, is all going to be done in natural lighting. I hope my video helped. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out. Just remember, I only do brands that do not test on animals. Thank you so very, very, very much to my patrons, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.